You can live in a place for a long time, but somebody brings in a light, like an arc light or a searchlight, perhaps into your own home, and suddenly the dirt shows. And you go, oh, was that always there? And you want to clean it up. This is what's happening in our societies all over the planet. A light is being turned on. The dirt that has always been there now is in front of us. It's showing up. And it's showing up in the way of things that are not right.
Guy here. My awesome guests today are Lee, Carroll, and Monika Muranyi. I remember stumbling across Lee many, many years ago and thinking, who's this guy? He channels Kryon. I mean, what? As I was exploring this work more and more, leaning into, I guess, more of an open mind, then Lee kept appearing up over many years. It was, as I hear him speak, it was like, wow, like this guy really shares a lot of wisdom. So I finally got Lee and Monika on the podcast today. So it's been a long time coming for me on a personal note. It didn't disappoint. It's a fabulous conversation, and we get into all sorts of topics about what's going on in the world right now. And one thing, I don't know about you, but one thing sometimes I feel like we get bombarded with so much negativity and fear in the media that it gets to a point where we can feel helpless and we just give away our power. What's clear about this message today, and what I feel strongly about, is igniting that self-empowerment within us from leaning into this work more and more. If you enjoy the show and you watch this on YouTube, please hit me up in the comments below. Let me know who you are in the world. Let me know if you're dropping into the podcast on a regular basis and what guests you'd like to see. I love connecting with you all, and I will catch you soon. Lee, Monika, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Guy. So
Hi, Guy.
wonderful.
Hi,
to
everybody.
Be here.
We're here.
It's truly an honor. I've been watching your work from afar. I know Chris Hooper, and she introduced me to your work many, many years ago. And to have you on the podcast today is a complete privilege, honestly. So thank you.
Well, you said the golden words. Chris Hooper is a dear friend of ours. And if you don't know who Chris Hooper is, she is an amazing woman that has been producing events in Australia of some very high consciousness, high caliber speakers. And we are blessed to be in that category. So I already love you, Guy Lawrence, just from that.
And the fact that you're in Oz.
Yes.
You know, I mean, yeah. From that side of the table, very, very excited. This side of the table, okay, it's fine.
So I have to ask you this question, the pair of you, because I do it every time on the show, and I think, why change it? And that is, if a complete stranger stopped you at a bus stop or a dinner party and said, what do you do for a living? How would you answer that?
I would probably say, mind your own business. This is a wild one. Here is the honest answer for you. When I started 34 years ago, that's what indeed happened. I had somebody ask me that question on an airplane, and I said, well, you know, this is what I do now. I'm channeling from the other side. I have things. And they called me the evil of the century. It was a born-again Christian minister. And he yelled at me in the airplane all the way to the destination. I realized right then that I was offending people by telling them what I did. Now, you wind all the way to 2023, and I don't even think they would flinch. They'd probably ask me, well, what's your sign? I mean, what we're seeing today is a far grander acceptance of the esoteric and the metaphysical. And it's almost like when we introduce people to it, they go, oh, yeah, I'm going to take a look. Whereas before they would say, you know, get in the other room. So this is what we're saying. And that's what I would say to a person is that I have found an amazing thing in my life. And that is a very, very different kind of a relationship with the other side. I have someone I talk to. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Monika?
So I have actually had that happen many times, not necessarily at a bus stop, but people asking me, so what do you do for a living? And what's interesting is that I actually begin by kind of tuning in to their energy field. And from that, I kind of feel my way into, well, what are they ready to hear? What are they ready to explore? And so sometimes I gently will start by saying, oh, I'm a self-help author and I love helping people realize just how amazing they are. And so from that conversation, we can go a whole range of different ways. And again, it's how ready are they to hear information about something that I did not know about when I grew up. So my mother still is a very practicing, traditional Roman Catholic. And so the idea that you would get spiritual information outside of that doctrine is almost blasphemous. So that was my background. And yet, when I had my own kind of journey of a life that had collapsed in front of me and I was looking for answers, it didn't come from a doctrine of what I was brought up with. I started asking questions and how did this happen? What was I responsible for in my life? And I went down a rabbit hole and came out the other side finding channeled information from an entity called Kryon. And then later on, it turned out that this person channeling Kryon was my soulmate. And we met in this most extraordinary way in South America. I mean, of all things, our age difference. I was living in Australia, Lee's living in the US, and we converge at, I believe, a divine appointment destination we were meant to meet. And together we are sharing messages from, it's almost hard to describe, this angelic entity, this angelic group that loves humanity so much. Everything that Kryon delivers is just about how magnificent the human is. And it's from that place that we want to share this message that there is so much more to you than what may have been told to you. And you're not a victim. You are a powerful co-creator and you have the ability to create the most amazing life you choose. So long answer, but that's kind of how I find myself answering.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It sparked a question in me that is then, how amazing is the human being and its potential? And when do you feel, are we ready to hear that information beyond what we've been taught?
Who wants to start?
I can go first. I mean, for me, it was the question, is there more? What have I missed? That's pretty much what started my journey because I was open. I was open to receive. So inside of all of us, and here I'm now sharing some of the teachings from Kryon, but inside all of us, there is this divine spark that wants to be discovered, but it's not going to present ourselves. We have to give permission. We have to ask, what is there? Show me. Tell me if there is something bigger than I know. We have to give permission. That is part of our free will. And so you asked the question, what stops us from seeing what is there? It is us. We are the ones that stop us from seeing what is there. And there was a beautiful channeled message from Kryon that actually talked about the human filters that get in the way of us saying, God, if you're there, show me. And the first filter is growing up. What was it you were told when you were growing up? What was the model? What did your parents say? Did this then become your reality, your truths, your belief system? What is it that you've been told with your spiritual filter? What are the ways that God has been described to you? Or maybe you don't even believe in God. And that's also a filter, something that got implanted into you. You're either going to look for God or you're not, depending on your spiritual filter. And then you have another filter. It's called your gender. What is it that you do because of the gender you are in? That is also a filter. Then you have another filter, which is your logic filter. Logically, you see the world as A to B, and any interruption in between that, your logic is not going to accept it. So it's actually a filter that stops you from seeing something that could be most profound and extraordinary in front of you. And then finally, for some of us, we have what's called a professional filter. What is it that you've been taught in your profession? And then if someone comes along and tells you there is another way, depending on how strong that professional filter came to you, you're either going to look and explore the new piece of information or you're going to reject it. And I'll give you an example here. Someone in the profession who is a dentist, they've been told all about teeth, what to do when there are certain issues and problems, and how to correct them. So imagine then, this is your profession, and along comes somebody who has been studying a body of work that looks at biological decoding and how our biology can give us coded messages about our ancestral lineage or our active conflicts we are experiencing, and they're expressed in your teeth. Now, sometimes the dentist will say, there is no way I am going to create a link between some person's ancient past and their ancestry with what I see what's going on in their mouth. And yet there is that kind of work that's called dental decoding, where someone is able to look at a panoramic X-ray of your mouth and then determine your lineage of your ancestry, what is the history that's been happening, and what are the active conflicts that are going on. So that's an example of how your professional filter can stop you from seeing what else there is to explore. And then the biggest filter Kryon has talked about, it's called our knowledge filter, because right now we have a very clear idea of how the world works, the laws of physics, and all of the things we've been given all through growing up, all through our peers, what we've been told, what we have physically seen with our logic filter, how it works. And this all combines into one big filter called knowledge. And so if I see anything outside of my knowledge filter, I am probably going to reject it, even if there is something miraculous that is there. So it's a long answer to the question, but there are many layers involved. But again, back to the beginning, the first step is show me what there is to know. I am open to seeing what is there. And if you are truly open, start watching for things that are coming your way to show you even bigger truths than what you thought was possible.
Thank you.
If you look at my answer is like diametrically opposed to hers in the what happened, or she was ready to look. And she actually said, show me. I was not ready to look. I was in my mid-40s. And I was settled. Not only was I settled, I was firmly attached to what I'd been told in church. I knew that we were born dirty. I mean, everybody knows that. And you've got to, go through this and go through that in order to have salvation or whatever. I mean, billions of people know that. And so I was pretty well settled with what you had to do. Pretty well taught all of these things. I was not ready for what happened. And what happened was a long story that I'm not going to tell. But when I got to that place where Kryon revealed himself to me as an angelic form, people think of channeling as something as spooky. Your head spins around, you make funny noises, and green pea soup comes out of your mouth. All of this. It isn't. It is just like a visit from an angelic source through you and allows you then to give messages. When I found that, it wasn't me looking. It happened because I got tired of being pushed around by a situation that I couldn't explain. And finally I got tired of it and I said, look, if you're there, show me. If you're not, I'm not interested. I don't want anything to do with the spooky esoteric stuff. Just leave me alone. And it happened, and there was no question that there was something there. The first message I got was, you are magnificent. You were born magnificent. You have a piece of God inside you. Now, if you take a look, even Scripture kind of refers to that, the God inside you. All the masters that I've ever met teach the God inside. So suddenly, it took me 3 years to believe it. And that is because I had to undo everything I was told. You mean I'm not born dirty? No, you're not. There's no reason for you to have been born dirty. The reasoning that we buy into for all of that is that hundreds of thousands of years ago, somebody made a mistake and we're paying the price. All of us. And so we're all born dirty. I mean, that doesn't even make spiritual sense to me now that I think about it. So in answer to your question, we are magnificent. And if all you have to do, this is where I'm allied with Monika, is that we have to ask. If you're not interested, no angel is going to come and push you around to make you look. I mean, it truly is. There may be situations that you look at, synchronicities that you look at, or other things that'll say, I wonder if there's something there. Now you've just given permission to look. That's when things start occurring. So if I had to say anything to the audience about how does this occur, how do you get from A to B? I don't know what to do next. Why don't you just pause for a moment and say, dear Spirit, if you're there, show me. That's a fleece. And I'll tell you what, you will be shown because you just ask the big question. Is there more? And that's what Monika said as well. But what I found out right away is that we are dearly loved. We're born magnificent. We have a piece of divinity in us. Let's go. As opposed to this thing about we've been beat up all our lives. No wonder we don't have any self-worth. When we come into this planet, everybody tells you don't deserve to be here. So unless you have a wonderful mother and father who loves you so much and they tell you differently. Mm-hmm. But that's my story.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So my next question is then, clearly there's a shift happening in our time as we live right now. And do you feel then that we're all going to have to listen at some stage and we resist that of what has happened, or we can do, or we accept and start to accept and light the divine spark within us?
Guy, that's multiple questions. You're asking about the shift, and you're asking about also our reaction to it, and are we going to go with it or not? We are in between energies at the moment. The energy we're experiencing on this planet, the shift, has been predicted by the ancients for thousands of years. It's connected to cosmology. It's connected to many things. it's funny. You look at the same shift and the prediction of it, you'll find that in the church. It's just been rewritten as the Armageddon. But if you take a look at the timing, it's the same time. So this was always known at some level, and from the Indigenous, and as I say, it's hooked to cosmology. That's the precession of the equinoxes. It's a 26,000-year wobble of the planet. When it was done, supposedly there would be an opportunity for shift. There would either be a world war where we're leaving, or we would pull it together and move forward. And this shift we're in is a result of pulling it together and moving forward, obviously. I mean, when you take a look around, it's a self-evident shift. As you pointed out, we're all seeing it. I think what really pegged it was when the war started with Russia, and Switzerland and it was no longer neutral. I mean, when does that happen? I mean, something is going on where the Earth is actually making decisions like it never made before. We don't want war. And we don't, we're interested in other things. We're starting to be interested in our kids, all of us, universally, on the whole planet, going to school and not having to suffer anymore, and having everything to eat, and having science that'll work for us and desalinate our water and find, all of these things. This is a tremendous shift. The Me Too movement, all of these things. This was predicted. Now, as far as the acceptance of it, I would say that there's two things going on. There's a lot of people looking around and going, finally, it's here. So it was almost like it was expected, and they're looking and say, what can I do to be part of this? And you're starting to see people joining on things that make a difference. And the other ones are afraid, very afraid, because they see change. The other thing that doesn't make it easy for people to cooperate with the shift is the fact that it's something that Kryon has mentioned. You can live in a place for a long time, but somebody brings in a light, like an arc light or a searchlight, perhaps into your own home, and suddenly the dirt shows. And you go, was that always there? And you want to clean it up. This is what's happening in our societies all over the planet. A light is being turned on. The dirt that has always been there now is in front of us. It's showing up. And it's showing up in the way of things that are not right and are there, and the corruption that is there, the collusions that are there, the I would say industries that keep us sick for money is there. Other industries in broadcast industries that want to scare us to death every night on the news, that's there. And you look at it and go, wait a minute, why didn't I see this before? What are you doing this for? Why? What is the agenda suddenly? And we're starting to see it. But a lot of people look at that and go, oh my God, we're going to hell in a handbasket because all these things are happening and well, it's always been there, folks. And what we're starting to see instead is, what can we do about something that has been in front of us for a very long time? But it's frightening to some people who are not aware that what is truly happening is remarkable, positive, beautiful opportunities. A raise in consciousness is taking place on this planet to the degree that someday, I believe fully, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years, sociologists will look back and say this was the time of change, because it has changed human nature itself. We are not going to repeat the past. That's the biggest difference. We're not headed to repeat the past. That should be obvious just looking around.
Because the question that I keep thinking is, what are we going to see in our lifetime? How much of a shift do you think? Because I often think about the Indigenous people and the ancients and the wisdoms that they've been living for millennia. And it feels like a lot of those traditions maybe used in a different language now with science is catching up, but it's allowing us to take that wisdom and actually bring that into our life that has been there the whole time.
Oh, I love that you mentioned that, Guy. It's definitely a deep passion of mine in learning about the Indigenous wisdom that is there. And when you study those different cultures, you understand that they have been always aware of, number one, their alliance with the planet Earth. She is a living, breathing sentience and deeply connected with humans. And it's something that we have lost along the way. And this part of this shift in consciousness that Lee has been talking about is rekindling that connection with our planet. If we take a look at all across the globe, all the environmental issues that we are facing with plastic contamination in the oceans, the way we treat our resources as though it's not even being given freely of the gift of mother, and the disconnect we have between our partner as the earth compared to how we think and treat the earth, that is starting to change. I believe this is the easiest way we can look around the planet of humanity and see that there is a change in consciousness, a change in thinking of how we are regarding the planet Earth. Obviously, for some, it's not happening fast enough, but rest assured there is that shift that is happening and changing and unfolding. And part of the beauty of the Indigenous culture is that they are aware that the energy of their ancestors is still alive within a conscious grid of the earth. So they can be in areas and feel the wisdom of the ancestors that are coming to them from the ancestor grid. And so it's a very powerful way to think of us connecting with the Indigenous, and how now part of the shift, it's not just an awareness of Gaia, but there is an awareness that the earth keepers, the wisdom keepers, the ones that have always known about this alliance and this deep connection with the Creator, are now in a place where they are actually sharing that information beyond their immediate tribe or clan. And that never happened before this shift that we are talking about. If you had secrets or ways that you preserved, you would not share them with someone else. And yet there are so many movements across the world where you see Indigenous sharing with other Indigenous, and then Indigenous sharing with non-Indigenous who are of a consciousness that want to discover and want to know more. So there is a beautiful bridge of connection, and it's happening from a consciousness level, a willingness level, a real heart-to-heart communication that we want to connect. And I'll just leave with this kind of parting prophecy that we are aware of with the Mayan civilization, and that is that they have said in the glyphs on the wall, if you study them, that if humanity makes it past 2012, we will move into the highest consciousness that the planet has ever known. And then there's one more. If you look at glyphs on a wall, there's another etchings in a rock called the Hopi Prophecy Rock, where they actually show, and it's in Native American in America here. So there's a glyph that shows a pathway, two pathways. One shows figures that are disconnected from each other and disconnected from the earth, and it kind of peters out. It's like the end of civilization. And then there's another pathway where they show that the people are connected and they're together and they're connected with each other and they're connected with the earth. And that pathway continues on into the future. And so there are many examples of different Indigenous prophecies that speak of this time that we are in, and that it is our free choice that decides the outcome. So here I want to just add in one more piece of information that comes from Kryon, that we've known about these prophecies from the Indigenous that we have free choice and that we can go one of two ways. And there's evidence that Lee and I see around us that show, yes, we're on the path where we're together. We're on the path where we acknowledge the planet Earth, Gaia, is alive and has sentience. We're on a path where we want to exist together with new values such as kindness, compassion, integrity, tolerance, harmony, peace, and balance. And so here's the little thing I want to throw in from Kryon, is that Kryon has said, now that we have made that decision collectively, this is the path we choose, get ready, because now we are being given a push to take us that way in an evolutionary sense, and it's called spiritual intervention. And so with this spiritual intervention, you are seeing an explosion of awakening happening. There are channelers all over the world. When Lee started channeling Kryon 34 years ago, it was not the level of exposure and awareness as what you see today. So if you take a look even at what you are doing, Guy, you are actively part of this awakening where we're asking questions, we're wanting to know more. And if you're tuning in and listening to this conversation, you too are included. You are actively taking part of the shift. So you ask that question, how do we know whether we're part of it or not? Well, if you're listening to this, you are part of it.
Wow, there's a lot in there. I had Robbie Holtz on the podcast. She's an author. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she actually wrote the book, The Secrets of Aboriginal Healing, because her husband had spent time with the Aboriginals to be healed. And she was given permission to write this book by the tribe because to bridge that very gap that you were speaking of. And the first thing that was required to heal was willingness, which is what you mentioned as well. And I'm fascinated then if we are moving into a level of consciousness that we have not seen before, what does that look like as a human for our listeners as we're coming into that? What are we going to experience? What will we be embodying? Who are we becoming? Because I think as we start to experience that shift, it can be very daunting. It was for me.
It has many layers. The first one is you. If you want to take a look at those of us who have gone through this, and those of us perhaps who would be asked, well, what do you think for yourself? What do you think for others? What do you think for the future? We always start with ourselves. We've got to show ourselves that it's real. So after you're comfortable with, yes, it's happening. Yes, I'm feeling better. Yes, I think I can even control my future, and all of these other aspects of life that we were never told that were there. Once you feel this and you've taken it in for yourself, you begin to understand that you're not alone. And you're seeing it start to be collective. Maybe some friends or maybe some others that are not friends, but that you're meeting are starting to talk a story you haven't heard before. And that story goes like this. Did you know that you can live longer? And there are ways of making that happen. The way you think. For instance, I had a friend who was from high school who always was afraid of every disease that was out there that he would catch. He did. He caught everything that he was afraid of, and he died. 10 years ago or whatever. This is the hypochondriac who brought everything he thought of to himself. This is the path of energy. What if it went the other way? So there is starting to be realized that energy is also consciousness. You can bring things to you. You can work puzzles with your own thoughts and how you act around things. When you get enough people doing that together, suddenly you've got a healthier group. There's a lot more kindness. You get along better. I would love to think it's not that far when the children of my children, perhaps maybe even my grandchildren now, instead of their children, will have history books written where war is something you read about, not that you ever experience on the planet. It's an old energy thing. It's the olden times where they used to shoot each other. This is the kind of world we're headed for. But then you ask what else might be there at the same time that makes this easier to see. There's technology coming that I believe is going to cure cancer. It's going to desalinate our water. I've said that twice now because I believe water is the new gold. I think that there's technology that's coming that will be able to feed a lot more people that are starving today. This is going to go a long way to eliminate strife on the planet, because so much of the strife is about resources and the battle for them. It's always been this way. You have the internet, which allows us to see the other guy for the first time. We used to have a planet where nobody could see each other, and you'd circle the wagon trains, and whoever came up, you were afraid of them. So, you do a shootout. Now it's different because you're starting to realize everybody's in the same boat, if you might say, no matter what language they're speaking. We've been to so many countries where they come up to us and start asking us questions that are very interesting to us because of the internet. Even 10 years ago, they were asking the questions about our country. They're only just tuning in to watching Americans do what they do and Facebook and all that. And I remember this one question was asked, is it true that they weren't watching Australians, they see the same thing. But they said, is it true that you smile a lot? Or is this just for TV? They thought it was, they see us all happy. And it's something that we do. We love each other. We smile at each other. We have fun. And there's a lot of tomfoolery that goes on. And they want to know if that's all put on as propaganda for them on television or on Facebook. I mean, that's their mindset, that there's always an agenda behind everything. And we'd say, this is who we are. I'm smiling at you now because we care about you. And that is one of the things that you're also going to see. People who start caring about each other when you've never been before. There's layers and layers of aha moments, I think, for lots of humanity to realize, hey, we care about them. They care about us. There's a little more kindness here. And at the same time, we're seeing unprecedented shootings in America. We're seeing unprecedented icky stuff, I'll say. That's all the reaction. I'll give this, I don't know, I have a name for it yet. When you turn on the light and the ugly stuff shows, there are those invested in keeping it the same. I don't call it dark energy. I'll just say there's a lot of those out there who don't want you to see what's going on, because it'll rip the carpet right out from under them and they'll tumble. And a lot of it has to do with the way governments work, the way banking works, the way drug company works. You start listing the things that we get a chance to clean up and make work properly with integrity. I think we're going to see it.
And, I loved everything you shared, Lee. And I love the question, Guy, about what does high consciousness look like? How will we know that's happening to us? How will we feel it? I have to be honest, I think we don't know because Kryon has always said a lower consciousness cannot look up to a higher consciousness, because you can look down, but you can't look up by its very nature. So I think don't even worry about that. Mm-hmm. Worry about how you are personally changing in your own journey. And there are very simple ways that you can assess that for yourself. And part of it is just looking at the attributes of mastery. And Kryon has given us many attributes of what mastery looks like. One of the attributes is that mastery does not react. Mastery observes and uses compassionate action. So just that alone is something we can implement into our lives if we can become better at observing things instead of reacting to them, and then sending compassionate energy that way. So what does that look like? Well, there could be someone who was in a tragic car accident, and it's dramatic and can be terrible for the people who are experiencing it. But if you can get into that place where you're observing And compassionate energy is visualizing an outcome where the people affected have peace over the situation that's happening. That's something you can do energetically. You can feel that person eventually smiling and having joy again. That's another compassionate action. Mastery will never diminish another person. I mean, that is huge because we all fall into the habit of chatting about something we see we don't like and we want to talk about it. And that just perpetuates it even more. And so there's some wonderful authors out there that have done books on, one is about having a complaint-free world. I mean, can you imagine what that would look like if we had a world that would be complaint-free? I'm telling you, there would be certain cultures that would probably have to cease to exist to have that, because complaining is a habit. And yet, if we could just, in our own personal world, make a point where we observe ourselves complaining, just to observe that you've done that. And this is not a judgment. This is about self-compassion. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that it was my habit to complain and grumble about this particular attribute. What if I could catch myself and rephrase? So, oh my gosh, this is peak hour traffic. I hate sitting in traffic at this time of day. What if we could observe, oh, wow, that was a complaint. What if I could reframe that to, oh, well, I'm sitting in traffic and maybe this is the perfect time to listen to some positive podcasts like Guy Lawrence. So you see how we can start reframing and using the attributes of mastery to know that we too are shifting. And what does all of that do? It's to enhance your life. I mean, it's your life, nobody else's. And you're the one that is able to move it into a place of joy, happiness, gratitude, celebration. And as Lee said, all of those things lead to longevity. And I think the most important thing as part of that is have an active inner child. If you haven't laughed at least once through the day, there is something wrong with you. You need to go out there and find something that is funny and laugh. And that laughter is a direct connection to the part of you that wants you to do that more often.
Wow.
I pop in here, Guy, for just for a moment too. I'm very short, just to continue. You ask, how can we tell? I love to watch our movies, our streaming services, all that, and see what subjects they're tackling. And, you know, are there differences in what's being given to us by the entertainment industry, and especially in the writing? And you see what they are saying. And I'm starting to hear something, and I've heard it in two places now, one on Netflix, and I forgot the other one, just in a regular series, where they're in strife. And the answer was, we're going to have to start creating different versions of ourselves. I'd never heard that kind of a writing before, which is to saying we got to clean up our act. We got to become different ourselves. I'm also interested to see the various whistleblowing movies that there are. This is the avenue, in my opinion, of changing public opinion. They watch movies, and you'll see things happen that are whistleblowing kind of things where they go, oh my God, did that really happen? Is this true? And it changes the public's impression, which they didn't know before, of something that they ought to know, that no amount of billboards would correct or even would get on the news. But a movie seems to change people's minds. So that's the other thing. And I'm watching. So you ask where we see the change occurring. That's another place.
Yeah, beautiful. You're actually seeing it right now with The Sound of Freedom, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
God, it's fascinating listening to both observations, because I remember on my own journey, which still unfolds, but was not to judge, was not to complain. And the third thing I used to do was not talk about my career in any shape or form, and see if I could connect to the heart behind the the identified self, if you like, that we would do. So that was a huge component for me when leaning into this work. When you talk about the inner child and to have fun with that and let that joy out, how do we work with our inner child to heal? If right now consciousness is elevating and we are lifting the light on, or turning the light onto everything that to be revealed, then surely that's happening to ourselves too. So how do we then work with that?
You know, this has been the subject of psychologists for a very long time. Psychologists learned very early that laughter is healing and that it actually changes the chemistry of the body and all of that. So they have discovered ways of bringing back the inner child, maybe or a child that you never had, or creating it. And it sounds really stupid, but there have been courses given in laughter yoga where forced laughter is there. The body doesn't know the difference. And so when you start laughing, even faking it, pretty soon you're laughing and you mean it. Or if you just can't laugh, go to the internet and watch babies laugh or something else. You can't help it. You force yourself into joy, and it's contagious. So that's one of the things that we are seeing, to get people into at least accepting that they have an inner child inside, and it helps them really to claim it. The more you do this, and the better you feel about it, the more you realize it's helping me. And you get to a point where it becomes normal for you to want to laugh every day, or to go someplace that's funny, or you sit down at night and you want to watch something funny or a comedy or something because you know how good it is for you. It is critical that we all have a balanced inner child, even though if you never had a good childhood. I just gave you the reason, the answers to maybe to find a place where this can work for you. We believe in it, and it's not just words. I think that it is a compassionate place. I think laughter is a kind place. You do things when you're joyful and you're laughing you don't normally do when you're depressed. Okay, will you agree with me on that one? And so you see the true value of laughter and developing a mindset where you say, I want to be a laughing person more often.
Beautiful.
I also find when you mentioned how do you heal the inner child, I'm going to say I'm not going to answer that. Instead, I think it's more fun to look at the attributes of the inner child and go with that. And inner child is about joy and laughter. We've already spoken that, and Lee gave some wonderful answers about joy and laughter yoga. And the other thing with children is they have this kind of innocence and this wide-eyed, open receptivity that doesn't have these judgments that are trying to filter out everything coming at them based on logic, growing up, the spiritual filter, the professional filter, the knowledge filter. They are spontaneous as well. And one of the other attributes is curiosity. Have this kind of curiosity to explore. And I'm bringing this up because sometimes, Guy, and I've been guilty of this myself, is you start this path of awakening and this spiritual journey, and sometimes you get kind of serious about it because I'm going to be spiritual and I'm going to be on this path of enlightenment and I have to work really hard. And I remember this one moment where I was doing a lot of energy work. I trained under a woman, Peggy Phoenix DeBro, and I was learning how to do energy healing and energy work. And you really peel back the layers of the onion of yourself as you start this journey and you start exploring. And I remember really going through it, and I was texting my sister, and at the time she was on a cruise ship going around Vanuatu, having this amazing time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just be on that cruise ship and pull down the blank screen of even learning about energy and what else there is, because I'm really going through my inner journey to erode those layers of the onion. However, it's a good thing that I stuck with it, because once you know what you know, there's no delete key. There is no going back from this exploration of the majesty of how the other side of the veil wants to communicate with us. There's no delete key from that. And if you simply allow yourself to relax with it, have fun with it, be curious, treat it as an adventure, not as something where you are striving with great seriousness. I mean, I like to think that a lot of the shamans that I've been privileged to meet, one of the qualities that I enjoy is that they take their work seriously. Don't get me wrong, but they don't take themselves seriously, and they always have humor kind of lurking in the background there. So, and if you're trying to think, well, what does that curious, spontaneity, fun, excitement, playfulness look like? It probably looks like dolphins, puppies, kittens, anything that has that energy. And if you feel that you are needing a bit of that in your life, then watch. If you can't interact with those fun young puppies, kittens, or dolphins, start watching some YouTube. There's so many YouTube clips on puppies or cats just doing the most crazy things, and it's just adorable. So connect in with that inner child that really wants curiosity, spontaneity, joy, laughter, music, dance, creativity. It's about being creative.
No, beautiful. It reminds us life is happening now, isn't it? And we need to embrace that and not take it so seriously. That's for sure. Just to slowly wrap up the podcast and tie all this in at the end, what would be the final message of not final, but looking back over the 34 years of Kryon and the messages that have come in through, if there were footnotes you could distill down that we could take with us now to ponder on, what would it be?
Beautiful question. You want to go first?
Sure.
Or you want me to?
I would say,
yeah.
The bottom line, you're not here as a victim of this planet, period. You didn't come here as a piece of divinity to suffer, period. You came here to learn what else there is. Do you give permission to know that? You have to give permission. I mean, if you're interested, it's going to start happening for you. A bigger truth is here, folks, not the dialogue that you're being given from the news. There is a bigger truth. You are magnificent. This planet is in the throes of improvement. Is not de-evolving, it is evolving. In the process, we have one foot in each energy, and there are those who want to pull us backwards. Next advice I give for you in this, besides starting to look around and see who you are, stop watching the news. Stop it. Because the news is invested in frightening you. That's how they get viewers, if you haven't figured that out. Go to a place where you have a news service that's unbiased, where you can read it and read the articles you want to, instead of having them dished out to you in a certain order scored with music. You see? So be your own person. Find out what you need to find out on the planet that's not going to get you in catastrophe mode, which is I guess the message of many right now. This planet is a far more promising place than you ever were told it is because of you. You have divinity inside. You have things you can do you never thought you could do. And so it's about finding out who you are and being loved. Can you sit and be loved and understand this is a lot different than anything you were ever told?
What a beautiful answer. So I think the only other place I can go with that is to really convey to you right now, you are here on purpose. Your life matters so much. And the way that I feel Kryon looks at you, looks at us, looks at all of us, is that just by agreeing to come in at a soul level to experience this human existence, just that decision alone conveys what a magnificent job you are doing, because Kryon has told us that God is biased in love. And because God is biased in love, there is one thing that God cannot do. God cannot do a test of free choice with that consciousness. And so we come in as this human where there is a veil that kind of disguises the divinity that's within us so that we can discover the God inside or not. That is the purpose of this human experience. And no matter what happens, whether you feel like you've become enlightened or not, just by showing up on planet Earth, you said yes to that test, the test of love, the love test. Just by doing that alone, you have made an enormous impact without even realizing just how grand you are by doing that. So you're here on purpose. You have a piece of the divine inside, just like Lee said, and what you do is huge. It's massive. We can't even understand just how far-reaching every single thing we do every day means.
Wow, I got goosebumps listening to you both. Thank you. To wrap up the podcast, two things. One, where can more people get more of you? And the second one is, will we see you in Australia?
Oh,
I'll let you handle both of those, Mark.
Cryonmasters.com has been kind of our go-to site of recent years. They're going to find under cryonmasters.com, we do a weekly program. It's called Healing Wednesday. And we also have the birth of a online school of the Kryon teachings, and it's called the Chrysalis Academy, which is also found under cryonmasters.com. And in the foreseeable future, we have very limited travel plans because we're here in the studio producing a weekly program as well as lots of content for our online school. But my heart just gets touched because I have Chris Hooper saying every week, Mon, every week I have people asking, when are you bringing Kryon back to Australia? And my goodness, we would be there in a heartbeat as soon as our schedule kind of changes from what we have created. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does indeed. I just want to thank you both for giving me your time today and coming on the podcast. And I have no doubt this will touch many lives here and bring much awareness to the work. And that's very needed right now. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
For everyone, you're in the right place at the right time.
I'll say.
Just such a privilege to be with you, Guy. Absolutely delightful.
Thank you.